the mindset is the key. We work primarily just by ourselves. We are only accountable to ourselves. We definitely can have some people around us who would help us stay on course and be accountable. But at the end of the day, as we know, being independent contractor, nobody can tell us what to do. So I have to really build systems around myself in order to basically be against the wall, and I'm like, you have to do it. And I mean, I know there are people out there who will just get up early and bright and like, okay, today it's amazing hours of prospecting.
Hi, I'm Noelle with Today's Brew, where top producing real estate agents share their tips and tricks on taking more listings, making more money, and having fun doing it. On today's episode, we welcome Voytek Lachowski from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, Voytek, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I am great. Thank you for coming on. I know you're a top producer. So what is your goal for this year? What are you on track for?
So my goal for this year was 30. That's, I guess, based on the statistics, about 6 times the average agent listed by NAR. I am a little bit, honestly, like in a lot of agents, I'm a little bit behind the schedule. I'm hoping to finish somewhere around 25 this year. So still, I think, respectable production.
Very respectable. That's 2 a month, and 1 a month. 6 a year is hard for some agents. So I want to talk a little bit about how you're able to achieve these numbers. Tell us a little bit about your daily schedule.
Sure. I mean, so like most agents, and we know it being at the event, coaching event a few weeks ago, even the top producers, their biggest struggle is sticking to the schedule, right? Removing distractions, removing all the things that take them away from income generating activities, as they call it. So I'm right there with everybody. I mean, accountability is a big thing. I joined a prospecting group right after the event.
So did I.
Sure.
We're in the same one.
Yep. So I am. So it's a smaller group. I mean, one of the agents approached me and asked me if I would, like to join it, and I'm like, okay, great. I mean, I'm here, I'm available. That's exactly what I need. On top of that, he said, like, it costs to join a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, good. That's additional accountability for me. So I joined it. Every Sunday we have to send our schedule. Obviously, there are some unexpected things that may happen. So we just, we are on. We have a channel on WhatsApp where we communicate, but then everybody's on Zoom. I usually start at 8. The Zoom, I start at 8 and then go usually through 11. I find that especially calling just listed or just sold, people somehow better respond in the afternoons. I don't know, maybe it's me. They're more relaxed, and those are like totally cold calls. So that's basically where I am. I also am a part of role play group. So we start at 7:30, which is a good lead up to the prospecting at 8. So that's basically it. A few times a week I go to the gym. So the day starts early. So at 8, I am wide awake, and actually I have to do that at 7:30 for my role play partner. So.
Yeah, and it's probably pretty nice starting off. Well, you get the gym, so you get your blood flowing and you get your brain clarity. Then you have your role playing. It's nice to start talking to maybe a familiar person in the morning, and you have a friendly voice before you hit the phones. Is that true for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Having, it's a close-end group. So sometimes I've been with them for about a year and a half. So there are some people that I've talked to in the past, and there are still some people I haven't. And good thing is every week we change, so that way you get a new personality, new style of communication, and sometimes completely different objections, different answers. So there is a lot to learn. So if you can join it, then I highly recommend joining a prospecting group. Prospecting group and role-play group.
I like that. And I like how you mentioned the different personality traits. So when you are teamed up with people, you can listen to how different people respond. I'm going to guess maybe you're an analytical.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Analytical squared. So that's I overthink everything, and sometimes when I have my coaching call, that's where we get into kind of debates, because I'm showing or telling my coach my thoughts, and he's like, "Okay, here we go again." So just do it. Just like, don't think about it. I'm like, yeah.
So Wojtek, would that mean that maybe you're hard to coach?
I am absolutely hard to coach, because I told my coach that the only problem in our coaching is me. So because he knows what he's talking about, I sometimes know what I'm talking about. Most of the time I don't. And he's just like, just don't think about it. Just do it. And in all honesty, Mike Ferry says that, even top agents do about 60%. He says that they should do. And I told my coach, I said, like, Tim, which I have a great coach, Tim Rohan, locally here from Charlotte. I said, Tim, if I even did like 20% of what you tell me to do, then, I would be probably ahead of my schedule. He's like, okay, you said that, not me. So this is the struggle, and sometimes, especially like if I am behind the schedule, it's not like, because it's part of accountability. It's not something you look forward, because here's like a confession of a failed agent, right? And he's like, what is going well in your business? And you're like, okay, let me see, like, lost that lead, threw out that one, they canceled appointment, whatever. And it's like, okay, but I'm healthy, and tomorrow is a new day. So
yeah, and you're still doing, what did you say, like what, 4 times the business of a regular
yes.
So yeah, imagine if you just did a little bit more. Imagine if you listened to your coach. If you listen to your coach, it is challenging. I want to expand a little bit on the personality traits, but I want to take it somewhere else. I want to take it when you're talking to a prospect. So when you sit down with an analytical prospect, how does that go for you? Are you more prepared for them or less prepared for them, do you think? Do you butt heads? Are you more agreeable?
It's an interesting, because the problem with analyticals, that's at least my opinion, is that it's very easy to end up in some kind of a rabbit hole, right? Because you want to, you go on tangents, you get, okay, well, here it is, another set of numbers, and okay, let's think about that. And let's discuss it. And instead of like, okay, let's move the process forward, right? So that's where the scripts are very important, that just kind of drag you back into the meat and potatoes of like, why am I here? Because I am here to close the deal, not talk about the market in depth, and especially like, well, but in Texas it's completely different than in Charlotte, and our market is still up, they're down 15%, but so anyhow, just too much information sometimes can hurt you. Yes, overwhelming, and can hurt you. People like discussing it, but then you can end up in an hour and a half listing appointment, instead of like being there for 25 minutes and walking away with the signed contract and saying, hey, hello, it's good, let's get to work. So working with Analytical has its challenges. Naturally, it's easier for me to talk to them. I think the challenges I have, I kind of developed a little bit of versatility when I'm dealing with drivers. The drivers who just like in your face, and I'm like, okay, I can be in, I can push back,
Yeah.
especially with information. I'm like, I'm gonna push back, and I'm gonna kill you with the information that I have. So that's the other thing. The challenge for me is like the amiables, because yeah, you don't know how far you can push, and they seem to agree to everything, and they just play along, and then you say, okay, well, let's sign the contract. Like, oh, hold on, we just have this question, like, great, or we have to think about it, or we're still
Uh-huh.
talking to several agents, blah blah blah. So that's the challenge for me, and I definitely have to get better at that. So like that's one of the things I brought from the recent event, that I dusted off my personality style books, and I'm reading them.
I find myself in more situations with more analyticals these days, and I'm feeling like I can stand my ground a little better. But I think I also, like you said, you educate yourself on what these personality styles mean, and
Hmm.
then you don't take things personal, and you're
Hmm.
able to communicate better.
Right,
So
definitely. Hmm. Yeah,
being
especially with the drivers, when they're just like in your face, and you're just like,
bulldozer.
okay, where is that line between being professional and everything else, and not stepping on their toes? And
Mhm.
even if you do, will they take as an offense, or like, okay, well, this guy is kind of up to my par, like he can
Yeah.
stand up to me. So that's the challenge. Finding. So I'm learning, and I guess every day is learning. I think that also the challenge is, like they say, find out their style over the phone. I mean, sometimes you can do it, especially with the drivers,
Yep.
but and analyticals naturally. But the other, the amiable, and the oh gosh, just went blank. Um,
Expressive.
Expressive, right?
Expressive.
uh, you know that's kind of a challenge, to find them over the phone, like, oh, okay, yeah, you pinpoint and say, oh yeah, you are, it always plays out well on stage. Then in real life, and it's like, uh, I'm not sure, you know
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about, so I want to talk a little bit about keeping a healthy mindset.
Mhm.
You and I spoke last week a little bit, and you had told me that you had made all your calls for the day and you had made 30 contacts, but you didn't
Mhm.
get a listing appointment.
Right.
But then
Mhm.
you're like, back to the phones tomorrow, back to square one.
Yep.
So we know that it's a numbers game. Um,
Mhm.
but for agents that maybe are newer in the business and don't have as much belief in the system,
Sure.
what can you tell them to do to keep a healthy mindset?
Well, I mean, definitely, in that business, the mindset is the key. I mean, we work primarily just by ourselves. We are only accountable to ourselves. I mean, we definitely can have some people around us who would help us stay on course and be accountable. But at the end of the day, as we know, being independent contractor, nobody can tell us what to do. So I personally, I have to really build systems around myself in order to basically be against the wall, and I'm like, you have to do it.
Mhm.
And I mean, I know there are people out there who will just get up early and bright, and so like, okay, today it's amazing 5 hours of prospecting, and I'm like, okay.
I'm not one of those people. I think I'm not one of those people.
Right. I'm like,
I'm
I
a
want to have what you are
procrastinator.
taking, but I'm not that person. So yeah, definitely mindset, and especially on, if you are hitting a rough patch, um, which happens. I mean, actually, this week's role partner, kind of like after role play, we started talking a little bit because, as you said, we feel it's like it's only me. But in fact, and especially if you go to the events and you see those people on stage who do 150 200 deals, and they tell you like, well, on average I do 15 calls a day and I get 2 listings, and you're like, what? Like, I just did 30 or 35 and I don't even have a good lead out of it, and no, let alone the listing appointment. So that kind of and we talked about it. It can be kind of detrimental even to your mindset, because you start questioning your skills, your abilities. Like, what is wrong with me? What do they do differently?
Yeah.
That allow them to be super successful versus me, who I'm putting the same amount of time trying to call, talk to people, and I'm not getting those.
I bet, and I wonder if this is true, but I wonder if it is the personality traits at that point. Like you mentioned towards the beginning of the conversation, that as you're analytical, you'll be like, oh, I don't like this lead, so I'll throw it out, or I didn't like this. And I do that too. Whereas I know a driver just gets on, because I've gone and shadowed agents when I first got in the business. I've had agents welcome me into their town, and I went and sat with them in their office while they prospect for their 3 hours in the morning and listen to them make their calls. Sure. And if you have a driver personality, it's just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, and they're not quitting, and they don't really care how they're received on the other end. If someone's nasty to them, they're able to keep pushing through to the next. If they're not getting a solid yes, and these prospects are not pre-qualifying how they need to be, then they're on to the next. And that might be the difference for you and that other person, is just that they're able to keep pushing on to the next call, and you're still thinking about the call before.
Right. That's true. I mean, like, actually every quarter I'm expecting and I'm waiting for like the first FU, on the phone, which at that point just like, yes, I did it again. Now,
have you ever had someone actually say that to you?
Oh, yes. I mean, on average, once a quarter. Yes, it happens. Here's the also other thing that is a challenge, because like the longer you go on the stretch and that's where the positive mindset is very important, is the longer we go and something is not happening, and we know it's a numbers game, you start doubting yourself, and you start sounding desperate on the phone. So the other, that's the very dangerous territory that you enter, because your tone of voice changes, and people can sense that. I think very often we try to pretend that we work. We know it's not a day that it's a right day. I mean, we just, after 20 minutes on the phone, like today is just not going anywhere. It takes, I think, courage and maturity to say, you know what, today I will take a day off and start fresh tomorrow. Because most people kind of like, they're sitting on that fence. They're still making calls, but those calls are kind of forced, and their mind is not there. So at the end of the day, they're not mentally rested. The calls didn't bring any positive results, so they are, again, it reinforces the notion that it's just not working. And so that's one of the things that I think last year I kind of came to conclusions like, okay, if it's not the day, just make executive decision. I'm taking day off, and whatever, and you just do it, and don't think about it twice.
And enjoy it so that you can go back to the next day. Correct.
And I think, that's one of those kind of things that many people just cannot say no. And they're just like, okay, I'm working with one leg in my bedroom and one leg in the office. Right?
One foot in the door and one foot out. Yes. And you're right. People can tell that over the phone. So you could lose a deal over it. You could lose that listing appointment because you do have somebody who you have an expire listing who really does want to relist with a new agent, but it's not going to be you because you went into it with your tonality being off and your attitude being down. So yeah, you're right. It's healthy to have a mental health day and then to pick it back up. But having the schedule and the consistency is so important, but taking care of yourself is equally as important.
Sure. I mean, like we're our biggest cheerleaders, and so we just have to do it for ourselves. I mean, if we put ourselves in not a good state of mind, it's on us. If we put ourselves in a good state of mind, it's also our responsibility.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to stay, with especially everything going on, it's so much easier to stay negative, actually natural state.
Your new prospecting group will be, to me, it was little blessings out there. I felt like I met a lot of incredible agents, and I myself was welcome into a prospecting group too. Just show up and do what you're supposed to do. And if you're not ready to do 5 days a week of prospecting, do 3 days a week of prospecting. Right. And if you're not ready for 3 hours, do 2 hours. But consistency is key. Well, Wojtek, we appreciate you coming on the show today, and I look forward to catching up with you again and seeing how the year ended for you.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me.